What's up? It's Mike Mal, and you are listening to the Athletor Podcast, where we dive into the processes, mindsets, strategies of some of the most successful athletes and coaches from all walks of life. What's up? It's Mike. You're listening to the Athletor Podcast. This week's guest is the none other than Ty Walz. The dude is at Brown right now. You might know him from his Virginia Tech days. He talks a little bit about the difference between a Power 5 ACC school and moving over to the Ivy League and what is expected of him. We also find out a little bit of an insight as to how they're moving in the right direction, how they're making such progress in such a short amount of time. And spoiler alert, by the administration. And you're not going to believe that he actually put a high school coach on his Mount Rushmore of wrestling. Ty Walz, Athletor Podcast, coming up next. Athletor Podcast, Ty Walz. I have been looking forward to this one for a while. Thank you so much for coming on today, brother. I appreciate it.
Same here, Mike. I am a fan and an active listener, and your show's been actually super helpful with taking on more of a role with moving up to Brown. I realized I didn't know anything outside of like your
I know nothing.
Yeah, outside of your standard like kind of college wrestling coach things like training people and that type of stuff. So yeah, your show with the guests that you've had on has been super helpful. So I'm happy to be talking with you again today.
Hey, so that's kind of one of the things that I really wanted to talk to you most about is like I know that there have been other people that have been on staff at Virginia Tech, and then they move over to smaller universities, let's say more quaint, and not everything. They don't have a secretary for everything, and they don't have the budget that they have, and they don't have whoa. It ain't just high crotches and outside steps, is it, Ty Walz?
No, it's not. It would be nice if it was. It'd be nice if it was.
Yeah, that's the easy part, bro.
Oh, that's the part that you have to earn every single day. It's like I need to take care of all these things so I can go and put the fun extra time in to really do a good job with the craft of actually coaching. But that is just what it takes. When you're at for Brown, just athletic department wise, a little bit underdeveloped. When you're at a place like that, you have to figure out how to navigate those things, and ultimately it gives you a better scope of all of what actually it takes to develop a wrestling program. And it makes that coaching process, when you finally actually do get to sink your teeth into some of your athletes, that much more rewarding and spectacular. So it broadens you as a person. I mean, it challenges you and builds your understanding of it. And it's been really cool in my short time here to see the growth, not just our program, but the whole department, and how much smoother things can go as we all continue to figure out what we're doing a little bit better. So it's been cool.
Yeah. So don't think that the progress that Brown is making has gone unnoticed. I see a Nike symbol on your shirt. I see a coaching staff that is engaged and relevant. I see a head coach that is trying to drag what looks like to me drag an administration kicking and screaming, albeit, into 2024. So tell me about what it was like when you first got to Brown and how it's changed since. Because you haven't been there very long, but it seems like there have been big steps in a quick amount of time.
Yeah. Well, initially too, thank you. That's great to hear, because we have been trucking along. And I mean, like today you're talking to me on Wednesday, which we take Wednesdays off as a staff because we work pretty much every single weekend, and we work long hours when we're in the office, and we work hard, every single person on our staff. And it's great to hear that, we're making a little bit of shockwaves across through it. So, but it has been really cool to see it kind of progress a little bit. So, navigating staff changes was a little tricky. And that's one of those things that when you are like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, those can like hold you up a little bit. If you get what I'm saying, just like your commitment to the program and what you're doing. But like when you set your mind to like this, we're getting better no matter what. Um, and just continue to operate like that, then those things they just roll off your back a little bit more. And that's been one of those
Mhm.
things that, we dealt with initially when we first all got here. It was Jordan first, Mickey second, then myself, and then Mike came, and now Mike's departure, and other people in between. And now we have Fine Silver on with us. So being able to just roll with all those things and know that no matter what, we're working hard for it has been helpful instead of letting them bog you down and slow things down. Everybody's kind of figured out how to do everybody else's job where it makes it a little bit more seamless when we're doing anything or sharing tasks on what we have to do. And then department wide, it's just been awesome. We continue to get support from admissions. Our athletic director, Grace Calhoun, she went on a week trip with us to Paris to watch the Olympics. So I mean, she cares about it.
Really?
She knows our guys individually, and she's really one of the. I mean, that's the piece that is so important that when you're joining on to a staff, and one of the things that was expressed to me in the hiring process, but was also something I was looking for, was a department that's going to support wrestling and support people that are going to hustle their ass off. And
Right.
they're on board with it. They want that. They want coaches that are going to go out there and push the limits, and that's what we're trying to do. And they kind of gave us that environment to do it successfully in.
Yeah, it's a nice it's a nice position to be in, because I was a small time college coach. I was a JUCO level, and every day was a fight.
Yeah.
Like literally, and I'm not exaggerating, man. Every day I would walk in there looking like I was warming up for a match. Like I would get butterflies in my stomach. It's
Yeah.
not fun. It's
Yeah.
not fun,
Yeah.
dude. So when you actually like, I remember, and if Rob Wisniewski is listening to this podcast, and you know that he is, uh, he was my old AD. I hated you. I hated you. Because I've tried over my life to be solution based, right? I handed him the youth state tournament. Like we had the capacity to hold and host the youth state tournament. That's over 2 weekends, Saturday, Sunday, Saturday, Sunday. We probably would have fundraised $100,000 just on the concessions. Just on the concessions and gear. Okay. And he's like, we got to pay janitors to come in. What do you do with that? What do you, I'm like, I'll pay him. I'll pay him triple time,
Those are some serious numbers.
for the day.
Yeah, you guys are flying
That's like
everything you want to go to now after that. That's huge.
easy money, right? And it's like, it's just a plug and play. Like you have hosted tournaments before. It's just opening the doors. And then he's like, oh, if you pay whatever. The point was that it was a constant fight. Now, that said, I don't know that it was always the pearl colored glasses that you're painting it as at Brown. Am I correct in saying that?
No, you're absolutely right. And we still have it. I mean, it's not perfect, obviously, by any means. Like there's still stuff that gets bogged down within different departments because every single department's changing. Our marketing, there's different people in there almost weekly. At the beginning of every year, actually, I did it last year, and we just did our like staff beginning of the year meeting. They have all the employees that have been there for less than a year come up and introduce themselves. And I was a part of it last year, and I was a part of like 40 people that stood up there and said, like, it's up to everybody.
Really?
And then this year we did it again, and it was the same amount of numbers wrapping around the entire kind of football meeting room. And I mean, that's
Right.
that's why it's like we're understanding when things are slowing down, but we also know that it's moving forward. There's progress in all
Moving
these.
in the right direction. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the most important part to me. Like, look, I get it. Can't be right now. But if I can see something on the horizon, Well, now you got me. Now
Yeah.
you got me. And again, it's very evident. It's very evident from across the country that okay, Brown's taking this real serious right now. And so what had for you, what has been the most challenging part about taking an Ivy League coaching job?
I think continuing to learn and see it play out more. Because when you get in and you have no understanding of the Ivy League, what it even means, your only experience really is with a Power Five, ACC team, then you don't really know what it actually looks like. All you hear is stories of alumni that went on to do this, or guys that had this type of experience, or even just with the process of getting guys in. I remember when we had our first dude commit, and I was like, yes, like we got him, like heck yeah. And it was like, no, we actually would get admission spots, and we got to make sure the financial aid looks good. We got to go through his academics and make sure that we can actually get him admitted into school. We need him to do this, and we want him to set this bar and meet this challenge. And I'm like, what? Like, oh my goodness. Well, I got to call him back and tell him like, hey, wait, hold on.
I got a phone call to make.
So it's like all that stuff. And to be effective at your job, which is, basically you need to be convincing kids on why choosing Brown University is the best decision that they're going to make at this point in their life, which it's the biggest decision that typically most kids are making at that point in their lives too. So you need to understand it and see it play out a little bit and watch it and have guys come in and leave and see what they go and do. So going through a year loop of it has been good. Continuing to interact with alumni, they're like the best way to kind of see like, okay, you remind me of that guy, or you would remind me of a guy on my team that went on and did this and went on and did that. And so like that's kind of what when you are in this recruiting process, what you're telling people that they're moving into. And so when I see these guys doing incredible things after they graduate from school here, stuff that I would dream of doing if I actually appreciated my education, then oh my gosh, I love asking people to come to school here. I never am like, and it's just more of a your grassroots, you're going to be a student and an athlete, and that's what you're going to do. And I like that because when it immediately makes it clear in the recruiting process if something's going to work out or not. You want to you want
Sure.
to excel in the classroom and challenge yourself there and be super successful after you graduate, and do you want to be a super stud, multiple time All-American national champ? All right, we got a deal here. Let's move forward then.
Yeah. It weeds out, um, for lack of a better term, undesirable recruits pretty quickly, I would assume. Yes.
Yeah, there's still like the ones that are a little bit of a curveball that I didn't know existed um where there are people that really just strive really hard to get into an Ivy League school because that's what they want to do, and they know that wrestling can be their avenue where really they're not totally committed to the wrestling side of things. And so
Mm,
that's just the differ of where we're at, where we're
I see.
when you're given X amount of admission spots, you want to make sure every single one of those is going to be used on somebody that's going to contribute and also hopefully contribute at a high level.
Mm,
So that's one of those like kind of curveball things. But yes, it does make it clear. And really, I mean, to be a recruitable athlete for a Division I program that's trying to be really good and be able to get into school there at the same time, you're already a stud. Like you're already a beast
sure.
at all the different things you're doing, and that's why the conversation starts to take place.
Yeah. Joel, do you have something?
No, I just thought that was funny that I don't think Tom Brands has to deal with kids showing up for the wrestling team because they want to go to Iowa.
Well, that's because
Well,
I mean, you go ahead, Mike.
no. You can talk on that time.
I was just gonna say, I mean, when I was at Virginia Tech, I mean, I got into school there. You could get into school there, but they accept a ton of people every year. And then kind of the same thing with Iowa, where with Brown, I mean, 45,000 people that apply each year, and I think their acceptance rate is 4.5%. And so it's it makes it a little bit more just a different process.
So, okay, let's talk about Cornell for a second. They've kind of been the bar in the Ivy League for a while now, and before that, it was probably Penn, um, but certainly taken second in the country as an Ivy League school is pretty exceptional. I understand that it's a long road, but but I will say this. It's going to start with one guy. It's going to start with one blue chip recruit that has a 4.0 that says maybe he's a 97. Maybe he wants to work out with Tyler. Maybe he's a super funky 57, right? And he wants to wrestle with Jordan. I'm pretty sure Jordan can still go a little bit.
Oh, he's good.
Maybe yeah. So maybe he wants to wrestle with Jordan every day. What is it going to take to land and because it's a shifting climate of this sport right now. You're talking, I mean, I don't know about you. I'm sure you hear the same numbers that I'm hearing some of these guys are getting for NIL deals.
Mm-hmm.
What is it going to take to land that first huge blue chip recruit for Brown?
I think one thing that happens and that we can sometimes that can construe or just kind of corrupt your view of some guys too is looking at that NIL number and thinking that it actually represents their success level of what they're going to have at the college level. Where I just have seen it so many times in my time at Virginia Tech where absolutely you have your blue chip guys that come in and then they do what you kind of intended them doing. But then you have those blue chip guys also that go in and then they don't get anywhere near the close of what you expected them to accomplish in their career.
Sure.
And then you have those dudes that come in that are kind of mid-range, maybe with their success rate, maybe fighting in and out of rankings or whatever it's going to be. And maybe this is a little bit more of an upper weight thing, but I think it will continue to trend down, but they jump levels and they become extremely accomplished and they do really well throughout their college career. And so each one of those things is something you have to take into consideration whenever you recruit people. And that's why you look at all their different abilities and what their ceiling looks like. What's their mentality? How bad do they actually want to win? And how focused are they? How committed are they? Because it does get difficult. Injuries pop up. You still have to navigate it, and you still have to be successful and come to and do what's asked of you. Where I think with that NIL thing, we just assume, and that's going to be a for sure bet with some of these guys. And absolutely, some of them, like, I don't know if I could say names when they're recruits and stuff like that, so I won't. But like,
Right.
or just watch who's number one. Some of those dudes are going to be freaking unbelievable. But it's there's a lot of kids, and especially the young. This is one thing that I've been thinking about for a while, especially with my team and the way that we are continuing to train. Kids are jumping levels at a young age. Not that they haven't done that in the past with guys that have been really
successful. It's much more prevalent now. Far more prevalent now.
Yes, where I mean, it kind of works where there's like that certain level, and then you're elite, and you're gonna take top 3 at the NCAA tournament every single year, no matter kind of who's in there.
Sure.
And I think once you like reach that spot, then it's the little adjustments that you have to be making. And so I'm still confident that there's guys on our team that are going to hit that same type of edge, just maybe their sophomore year instead of their sophomore year of high school, and then they get to that point and, then the skies becomes a little bit more of the limit with the little adjustments and stuff like that. And so that's one of those things that gives me, it's kind of like that whole process of getting to the point of being elite. It's boiled down simpler because coaching's more streamlined and you can reach it. And then, that's
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll ramble on about it for a while.
No. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. But here's the hard thing, Ty Walz. How do you identify those type of athletes with a higher ceiling? Because look, you're not going to get every blue chip recruit right now.
Yeah.
You're not, right? A, because of the academic restrictions, but B, because you're a building program. So your job now becomes to find the kid that has the biggest, I call it an upside, you call it a ceiling, whatever, give it a name, whatever it is. How do you go about identifying that athlete when you're watching or talking to a kid?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of looking I'll do two parts of this kind of. I think when you're actually analyzing the athlete themselves in their wrestling, it's what are the mistakes that they're making? Are they easily correctable? And is that what's keeping them from beating top level guys? Like, is this guy hanging in there with a top 10 guy and he's just beating them off some, relatively easy stuff that if we just polished it up that we can figure out? Are you it, okay, you're getting ridden on bottom. That happens to a lot of guys when they get into college too. If we fix that
Mhm.
and you're lightning on your feet, are you then going to be having, 1 point matches with some of the best guys? Yeah, probably. So I think,
Probably.
and then also, the athletic side of that comes in that evaluation too. Like, what are the things that they're doing? Are they, they look really physically fit? Are they walking off the mat after losing to a close match to a really good guy and they're like barely tired and they just look fine?
Mhm.
And like, how are they reacting to it? There's one kid that we have that I was compelled to recruit him because I watched him walk off the mat at Fargo and he was bawling his eyes out and like just so deep, like I could just see his genuine anger and frustration with himself because of how bad he wanted to win. And I'm like, hell yeah, I can work with that all day. And you're a beast athlete. Like, yes, if you want to win that bad and you have the physical attributes to be able to do that, then we can make it happen. That's partly confidence in my coaching ability and the other people that we have on our staff's ability. But also it's just knowing that this is the other part of it. As long as the environment is in place for these guys when they get to college to flourish, then they will. And
Mhm.
that's what we're continuing to construct and put into place. And that's not just it's not your weight room, it's not your wrestling room, it's not that type of stuff, but making sure their partners are going to give them and provide them all with the challenges they need to problem solve quickly, and make sure that we're giving them the individual attention that's necessary, and that's something that we put a big emphasis on, and that's what all programs do. Really, we put a really big emphasis on it. It's maybe a little weird, but
The
we
one-on-ones.
yeah, we do one-on-ones. We give our guys individual time during practice. We give our guys feedback almost every week after they compete, whether in simulation matches during the season, it's every week where they get written feedback on what they're doing. And it's just we are trying to do whatever we can do different to expedite this process of growth. And so you have to find the kid that's capable and willing and then have the environment that's going to make it actually possible.
It's interesting that you say that because my son, I'm going to keep it personal here for a second. My son went to journeyman this past weekend and he got his dick kicked in. Um,
Right.
he first match was against number 18 in the country, and first two periods were scoreless, right? So he, wrestles to a scoreless first and then rides the kid out completely in the second period. Now that's great for a sophomore wrestling a senior. That's wonderful. But
Yeah.
then he goes on bottom and he gets tilted up like like a pinball machine. And he lost 4-0 on a cross wrist tilt. Trying to explain to him like how great that
Yeah.
is really, really difficult for me, especially when his ear exploded. Joel, I don't know, can you share the screen and show
Oh
his
no.
ear exploded? Oh, it's
Oh,
gnarly.
that's a good
But
rite of passage though. That's almost like makes it a little bit more unforgettable.
yeah, a little bit. I mean, I'm pretty sure he ain't forgetting this weekend for a while. But yeah. The point is though that trying so, and he's like freaking out, like he's like he's so upset with the weekend, and I tried to explain to him. I tried, and it's not easy, especially coming from dad coach, right? Like I'll tell him, like I will literally sit him down and go, "You want me to be dad right now? You want me to be coach?" because
Yeah.
I
Oh, that's a
can
cool way of
put
doing it.
one hat on.
That's
I have
great.
to, because
Yeah.
I can give the tough love as a coach, and then I'll just give him a hug as a dad. Like, yeah, just fucking cry. I don't care.
That's
Right.
sweet.
So here's the thing though. He was so upset with the way that he wrestled. He just couldn't get to a leg to, if he paid the guy. And explaining to him that college coaches and people that have been around this sport for a long time, right? And it's not just college coaches. It's not just about getting to college to wrestle. Because if he doesn't wrestle in college, who cares? Right. But it's about what you do on the back end, what you do in the third, fourth, fifth match, sixth match of the day with an exploded ear and a gable wrap, and you can't hear anything. And like, it's about that way more than getting cross wrist tilt. That's easy, dude. That's easy. So I guess the question becomes, how do you talk to your athletes when they are dealing with that type of adversity in the moment?
Yeah. I think, you know, with coaches, they'll oftentimes use their own experience to explain certain things and to relate to their athletes. And I think there's some that probably really enjoy the good side of that. Like, I remember when I was prepping for the finals of this tournament or whatever it was, like that, there's that. But I wrestled for St. Ed's when I was in high school, and I was like in my like second year of wrestling on their team, and we were wrestling all the best teams in the country. And so I got my ass kicked so many times through that process, and then absolutely in college, and then absolutely on the senior level, where I have just experienced those things and navigated those problems and contemplated failure enough where when our guys do have failures, whether it's in practice it's different because practice is that's what you need to get kind of perfect with that process. If you're going home crying and pissed off because you gave up a cross wrist tilt every day in practice, like no, like you got to fix the problem, and no, you can't be emotional about it. It's about problem solving and things like that. But if you got tired and you couldn't suck it up and you got beat late in a match, then yes, now let's attack that emotional problem and figure that out too. And so I think it's being able to meet them where they're at when they do have failures, but then guide them back towards the path of progress of like, look, yes, this we need to address this technical issue, not your effort, not this, not that. And when it's not effort and
No.
it's not desire, then it makes it really easy to kind of pinpoint. It's like, all right, look, it's a technical issue. But if you're going out there and you're not giving it 100%, then it makes it really difficult to actually figure out how to do a problem or to fix a problem.
Yeah.
And then
Sure.
you have
Sure. 100%.
then you have like your son's whole weekend, and that's the stuff that, when I think about coaching wrestling, really it's about developing men for me within men's wrestling. And so it's, you know, when you have a weekend like that and you do get through it and your ears messed up and you lost matches and you feel like you're tough, making sure that you actually internalize that and like put it into your bank of confidence and of toughness. So, like, oh, I'm freaking tough. Like I'm definitely going to Fargo this year because I had a tough weekend and I'm going to be able to go and do that now. And, that's, I think, always really important for guys to make sure that they build their confidence when they go through tough times like that. Because I definitely think back to some longer weekends and some terrible weekends that I had in my career when, it was necessary to kind of get tough and when I was trying to deal with the problem in front of me, like, oh, this is the worst thing that ever happened to me. It's like, no, it's not. No, it's not. There's definitely some other tournaments in the past that you got through because you're tough and you're here still. So let's keep moving.
Yeah. Yeah. If that's the worst, and again, it goes back to dad, right? Like, if it's the worst thing that happens to you in your life, you're gonna be just fine. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's gonna
yeah,
be just fine.
no
But it
doubt.
doesn't take away the sting of those ugly,
No.
ugly losses, for
And
sure.
that's the other better
Um,
part too, is trying to figure out how to deal with that stuff too. Like and not attaching your value to your wins and losses. Like that's a great problem for kids to learn how to tackle just so they can, become better people and
as a
and
human.
have a better sense of identity and their purpose. Like it's awesome. I love it when it makes sense like that.
I'm curious how
Yeah.
many of the kids show up there at Brown with kind of that mindset of kind of progress and not tying their self-worth to wins and losses.
Yeah, I think that's the one where when you look at wrestling through like a holistic view of like the physical, the mental, and then I think the spiritual is a huge component of it with how you deal with certain things, how you look at things. And, for some guys, it's their faith in God that helps them because they understand that. And obviously that has a strong presence in our sport. That helped me later on in my career. And then for some guys, some guys can like just straight up out tough it where they know like, no, I'm angry until I fix it. And then, continuing to do it that way. And then I think for some it's boiling it down, realizing that it is just wrestling, and then they're focusing on like the problems that they need to fix so they can continue to win. And I think that's like but it's different for everybody. Everybody's got their different things that help them bounce back from failures and stuff. But I think for our guys specifically, like we do a good job of making sure they're aware that when they mess up, when they do anything wrong, it's for progress. Or when we put challenges in front of them that maybe to them they don't make sense. Like, why are we doing this really difficult thing? It's like, no, it's not because you need to be the best runner in the world or because I want you guys to be in better shape. I want you to overcome this challenge so you know that you can overcome these challenges and so you can build that mental toughness up. So the things that get put in front of you look like nothing.
Yeah. That's doing things in the name of progress, doing things in the name of moving forward has become if nothing else, a staple in my house, and I try to impart that upon the athletes as well. But that's not always easy either, right? Like they sometimes they don't want to hear that stuff. Sometimes they just want to win. Like, hey, I want to win, right? Like it's an unforgiving part of the sport. I want to shift gears a little bit, but I want to talk about Jordan Leen, okay, and what it's like to wrestle under Jordan. Jordan's dad coached at a high level too, didn't he?
Yeah, and his dad's like my favorite person that I've met recently because he's just super likable and funny, and um he's just got a great presence to him, and he's come with us on some of our competitions, and so it's really cool. And his story of coming up through Oklahoma coaching and then inevitably at Tennessee, and I can't talk about this super eloquently, I only know it
Mm. Yeah.
through stories, but that is something just so bizarre and cool
Yeah.
and unique. I think he would be a good dude for you to interview, to be honest, because he's got a crazy
I
story.
would love to.
Yeah,
I would
I'll
love to.
be with him after.
But for Jordan though, no, it's cool. It's just he's an interesting cat to me, right? Like he wins the national title, has this really eclectic style of wrestling, gets into coaching at Pitt, and takes the job at Brown, has no social media presence at all. Like he's just this like I searched the hell out of that dude, and you can't find him. He's a
Yeah,
ghost,
yeah.
man. Um, so what's it like coaching under a guy who seems like a fairly different person than everyone else in our sport?
He is unique because I still have yet to figure things out. And I originally thought that what I was dealing with was like, all right, Tennessee guy. So like, is he gonna act like Southerny or like how is he gonna be with that? And then I'm like, wait, but hold on, like he went to Cornell and he was doing pre-med, so wait, maybe he's kind of nerdy. And he's neither of those things. You can't oh, but yeah, he's a national champ wrestler, so like, all right, that's got to be in
Yeah.
there. And that one is, but it's different. That's not his personality. And so he is
Right.
definitely unique, and he's been super, super, like basically completely rearranged the way that I look at college wrestling and coaching in general, just because he's, even just the problems that he's worried about or working on and the way that he's navigating them is so different from what I've was experiencing when I was at Virginia Tech that it's like, oh, I didn't realize you could probably accomplish that problem, a completely different way, the way that you're doing it. And so he is very unique and he's doing a great job. And I think one of the things that's consistent with him with regardless of which which personality trait of his you'd want to analyze is the fact that he's hell bent on succeeding here. And so that's one of those things that makes our jobs easier working underneath him. And the one thing,
No
sorry,
question.
not to
No, you
continue,
got
but the one thing that him and I do connect on is the fact that his mentor and coach that kind of hired him was Rob Cole after he had graduated from Cornell, and so he first started coaching with Cole. Um, and so we'll compare Cole and then my experience with wrestling underneath Dresser and then working with Roby together
Roby.
very often. And so like it's really cool when you're looking at these guys that now, Dresser, Cole, Roby, all on this level now that are just super successful. It's really cool that we get to pull from all of them and put it together and apply it to what we have going on.
The coaching tree that those two particular men, Rob Cole and Kevin Dresser, are creating is pretty special. It's pretty freaking special. The coaching tree that is kind of blossoming around them seems like a far better fit for success in 2024 than anywhere else, right? They're more of the CEO type. They took to that role very, very quickly in their as they saw the sport kind of evolving towards that. And the guys that didn't are having less success. Now, not all of them, right? Because money fixes a lot of different problems. But the guys that are doing more with less, are seem to be the guys that are competing at a high level, right? And so, what is it? What type of download did you get from Dresser in terms of the CEO part of the job that you probably couldn't have gotten anywhere else?
Yeah, he did have that. He was both because he was hands-on, and as well as with everything from training to recruiting to all the different facets of the program to and talking for extended periods of time before practice. Let's definitely not forget that part. And
I've heard.
so he was hands-on in that sense, but then he was also very hands-off where he trusted his staff underneath him to a certain degree to accomplish our training and to do things and to work with the individuals. And then he was able to kind of interject and say, like, you need to make this little tweak or you need to do this little thing. And he was always messing with dudes' heads to try and get them to grow or move forward. And definitely like missed the mark on some dudes where maybe pushed them in the wrong direction. But it was kind of like his way of getting the most out of you that he could when he was doing anything along the lines of that. And so um it is I whenever I think about him with my job now, but my mind immediately goes to creative solutions because he did that really well too. At when he was at Christiansburg before even going to Virginia Tech, he started a bingo hall that they were able to raise money through, which that's what I thought of when you were talking about the tournament that you got uh,
Sure.
demolished on. And that was something that he was able to do and give his guys a great opportunity. And then those guys turned into All-Americans for him when he got to Virginia Tech. And while he was there, he did a number of different things with moving parts and that I do think of his creativity as well when it comes to certain things. Like even like social media started becoming more of a presence when we were in school, and he started jumping on it immediately. Freaking old dude still
Yeah.
pinpoint on it like, oh, Instagram's a thing now. All right, we're doing promotions for a match that we're doing in our art center. It's like nobody was really thinking about creative stuff like that at that time, I feel like. So
Mhm.
it's definitely creative. And then yeah, I knew he was going to be dangerous once he got to Iowa State too.
No question. What type of things would he do to mess with kids' heads and try and push them?
I mean, it's not like completely crazy stuff, but I feel like he would oftentimes put stories to what guys were experiencing, whether that was what they were actually feeling or not. Where he'd be like, oh, you know what? Like, Ty Walz went out and got his ass kicked this weekend, but he's pissed about it. He's pissed about it. He's gonna come in today and he's gonna work really hard. It's like, no, like I'm not. I understood why I'm not even mad, but like something like that. Except you can multiply it by every single person on the team, and they're getting their own situation, and he's calling them this name or calling them that name, and so yes, he definitely would ruffle some feathers sometimes when he would talk, um, and it would piss guys off, and whether that was a good or a bad thing, it worked out for him. However, it did, and so those things, but then also like. Mike Zadek was there with him underneath him, and he did a lot of our training too. And he was the same way. If we were running sprints in the morning, then he was telling us why we were running them and what we needed to get through in order to do them, or what mentally we needed to be overcoming during that time, which I sucked at because I sucked at running.
Because running sucks, if we're gonna be honest about it.
Like freaking trying to stay big here, and you got us running 6 miles before we freaking lived. Not really, not 6 miles, but we would run a lot of sprints. And so it's just, but they would do a good job of, at least creating that mental dialogue where, and my favorite thing that actually that dresser gave me that I use every single day, and we made fun of him a lot as his athletes. We would always say like, figure it out. You got to figure it out. Because he would yell it while you're wrestling. You'd be in like the shittiest spot, and you'd just be like, "Figure it out, figure it out." And it's so true though. It's so freaking true because yes, you do. You got to figure it out. Like it's your thing that you got to deal with. And
your
so
mess to get out of.
we would always say it in social settings, and now I say it to my daughter all the time too. I'm like, "Figure it out, figure it out.
Right.
You get
Figure it out.
Get across the monkey. You're good. Figure it out."
It is one of the things that is thrown around this house a lot. Figure it out. Or I think Joel is probably sick of hearing this one. You're gonna make me Google this? Okay, I'll Google it if you want. But
Yeah.
you got the same Googleator in your pocket that I do. Figure it out, dude. So yeah, and that is more with my daughter than it is with my son. My daughter, she's not lazy, but she's lazy. But my son is not. He's
How old is your daughter?
She's, I don't know. You're asking tough questions here, dude. So let me ask the questions, will you please?
Sorry.
Knock it off, Ty Walz. That's not funny. I don't know. She's a sophomore too, but we redshirted him, and that's why it's like algebra. And I'm not one of those mathy guys, so we're gonna move on. All right, you have a very distinctly different style than Jordan Leen. Do you gravitate towards athletes in the room based on style or based on weight?
That was a conversation we had when I first immediately got to Brown that I still think about all the time because Jordan, like when I first got there, I was like, all right, like elbow pass, high crouch work great for me. Let's do some posts. I can get these guys to all do that. I can make them all do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that. And, I'm ready to start showing it and getting these guys integrated into a system, into a style or whatever it's going to be. Not that I was so, archaic and whatever, but I was just like that's what we're going to do.
Regimented, sure.
Yeah. And drilling and reps, and this is what we're doing. And Jordan immediately was just like in our first training meeting was like, no, like let's like kind of let them kind of speak to us with their wrestling, and we'll continue to pinpoint things that we need to fix that are maybe team wide, but let's keep it individualized. And I was just like, no, not no. I was fuming, but I didn't show it, and just was like, all right, so we're just gonna do nothing today at practice. We're just gonna do this, but like, and I like as it progressed, my temper slowly continued to simmer down because I saw guys. We have one guy on our team. His name's Austin McBurney. He's our shining example of its kind of success at this point, just through his development. Not saying he's unstoppable right now. He thinks he is at this point, which is great. But his development has been very rapid. And he was, when I first got there, he's kind of a gas tank goer type. So I'm like, yes, like this guy needs to be forced to do this, and this, because that's probably how he needs to be trained. Not the case at all. Him coming in with that same mentality, knowing that what he wants to get better at, and him choosing his spots more and us being able to let his wrestling kind of show us what needs to be fixed even more as he continues to develop certain things, has been really huge for his growth. And he's gotten so much better, so much faster. And I think he's ultimately the biggest one who's responsible for it. He started with just an underhook. Now he can use that underhook to get to an inside knee pull. Now instead of just getting to that knee, or now that he was getting to that knee pull, guys are pulling him up to the waist. Now we need to figure out how to wrestle that waist. Now we need to figure out how to push guys to the edge, wrestle the edge. Now we need to figure out how to not use our underhook, stop pushing, and then touch and go to the other side. Where he wouldn't have figured out the progression of that technical way of doing things if I would have just been like, we're doing high crotches. And so that's kind of the power. I mean, he could be further along. He could be further along if he just stuck to the high C.
Well,
we'll never know.
We'll never know because Jordan Leen put a kibosh on that. Nice. Thanks, Jordan. Maybe a little. All right, fine. All right, let's get moving. Ty Walz. 3 questions. Don't think about them. Just answer. What is the best wrestling shoe of all time?
I forgot about this part on your show, and I actually was dreading this question because I'm the least shoe guy ever. So I'll just go
Fair enough.
Standard answer of the Asics Aggressor because I liked them the most because they lasted the longest. And I didn't have to get another pair of shoes that I have to make sure feel right on my feet. I just could wear them for an extended period of time, and they had to get really messed up before I threw them away. So,
dude, I have a 20-year-old pair right now, literally right now. Well, I guess they're not 20 because they were still Roulons at the time, so probably 15 years old. Yeah, I still have a 15-year-old pair of Aggressors, and they still got tread on the tires. Like, it's wild.
The black and gold Roulon was the shoe that was like the most coveted thing at St. Ed's when I was going through high school too, because we were black and gold colors, so it matched perfectly. And so that was, I didn't realize at the time that was the last time that I was
there they are. There they are.
Yeah. And so you were a badass if you had a pair of those, and I did not.
Fair enough. All right. You only get 4. They got to be American. Who is on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling?
Jordan Bros is the George Washington of it. And maybe I'm biased, but I really just think he's just the most incredible athlete. And like, if I ever talk to somebody that's not a wrestling fan and they might know who Jordan Bros is, I go all in on him. I'm like, oh, he did this, and he did he's this person, and he's that type of person. Because that's the only way that I know that I can maybe turn this person into a wrestling fan, because they would turn him on and watch him. Sure. So he's definitely at the top. I think, and this is similar to, I think Kyle Snyder is unbelievable, and he's a guy I've competed against, but he's just the full package as well. And I do incorporate that person so much too. And so Burroughs, Snyder, this sucks because I got so many people that if they just had a little bit more, maybe, I mean, I'm not trying to go all off of accolades. I think I want to go off contribution to sport too.
It's a thing. Impact on the sport is important, but yeah.
Yeah. Would you say you get 4?
You get 4.
Like, I could be like biased and say Mekhi Lewis too, because he's Virginia Tech's first national champ, or like, but I'll go with I mean, everybody has to have John Smith on it, and I agree. And it makes sense, and he needs to be on there too. And yes, if I was maybe 20 years older, then he'd be my head of it, and Jordan Burroughs would be my shoe-in guy.
Yeah.
And then
I am 20 years older than you, and I still put JB.
Okay.
Look, here's the thing. And I can give a ton of different reasons why. I'll start with John competing against one Russian. JB has Russia, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, Georgia. I mean, like, let's be honest, man. Those guys are all absolute hammers. And then, I know there's 6 in a row, but having 7 gold medals is incredible. There wasn't one game that he didn't medal out except for 16. Like, it's just so many. And he wrestled through 3 different rule sets. Like that's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah,
That's
I forgot they were
wild.
doing freaking
And he
ball grabs.
wrestled
Yeah. Oh my God.
ball grabs when he first started, dude. They were
Yeah.
they were in the dark ages when he first started. You know, you take that, you combine it with day of weigh-ins, and then day before he had day before weigh-ins and he had day of weigh-ins, and he's still
Yeah.
making 74K.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I mean,
And then competing
and
against
doing
other
it into well
generational
into
best
30s.
to make the team you have to
Yeah,
against the other guys that would also be on
David,
Mount
Dave.
Rushmore. Yeah. It's
Like
unbelievable.
it's like, come on, dude. I mean, he's the greatest of all time. And again, I'm a huge look. I love John too. Like, don't get me wrong. Like John Smith is, like we have drank some wine together, and like, But here's the thing: like, you just can't take anything away from Jordan, and he's done it in a in a s- in a social media climate where people have a tendency to take away from their own
Yeah.
legacy with that, right?
Yeah.
All class, all day.
All
So
day.
anyway, I didn't mean to let you off the hook there.
No, I thought you freaking forgot me. We're
Who's
moving
your
on,
fourth?
dude, because I didn't even come up with one. I don't want to drag this on too much longer. And
No, we got time, brother.
all
We got
right,
one
then
more.
I'll actually like I want to go with like some that like you know what? Like for me, actually this is an easy one. I'm sorry, I just need to broaden my horizons a little bit. I'm gonna go with Greg Urbis from St. Ed's because he is the guy who was the head coach before John Heffernan took over, and Hef was the guy who ran all of our practices throughout the time that I was there. But Urbis had been there 30 years longer than I had ever been there and even been alive. And he had recently retired a handful of years ago. But if we're talking about impact, I mean, if we're talking about guys who he's had
Mhm.
his hand on that have went on to do incredible things, God. And then I think that's
Yeah,
just the tip of the iceberg, the amount of national champs, and trying to think, Olympians and NFL players and All-Americans and everything that he's had his hands on, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Below that are kids that you and I all went to school with, just your everyday guys that he somehow coerced to come into that wrestling room, and then they got something really awesome out of it. And that is, that's everybody else. And so
I love it.
I can't and while he was doing that, he was coaching football and teaching geometry and other math classes. So yeah, he's gonna be on the Mount Rushmore for me. Move him to the
I love
front.
it. That's a great
JB's
one.
going back a notch.
Take a back seat, JB. You and your 7 world
I
titles
don't
can
want to
have
see
a
you
back
double
seat,
edge him,
bud.
but
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. All right. Last question. You got a magic wand and you can change one thing about the sport of wrestling. Tell me what it is.
um I would take away riding time, and I've thought about that one. Every year I get frustrated with it, where I'm like, how are you calling the top guy for stalling? By riding this guy, he's gaining time, which is a point, and he's keeping the other guy from getting a point. And there's nothing, as much as I just love watching a guy drive a guy out of bounds and then walk back to the center and then take
Yeah.
him out of bounds again and maintain position for a minute and a half to get 30 seconds of riding time. As much as I love that and it's great, I would be happy to not have to watch.
I sense some sarcasm in your voice, Walz.
I'd rather see a takedown.
Sorry. Yeah.
So, and it's
Look,
just, it doesn't make
I
sense
don't
that a
know.
top guy could get called for stalling. If he's gonna get a point out of this, how is he stalling? And so I would take away riding time. And plus it makes it confusing for the clock workers. We're talking about people that are going
Yeah.
volunteering time and now they have to worry about a whole separate other clock. It's confusing and it doesn't make sense to
Yeah.
even people that are watching the sport. And so I think I would take that away. I
It
remember
is difficult to try and explain that.
when Mekhi Lewis wrestled Carter Strachey in the finals of the NCAAs, this is 2 years ago, whenever it was, that was one of those things that I had to explain to everybody who watched it that wasn't a common wrestling fan. They're like, why did he lose? I'm like, oh, it's the riding time and the overtime periods work out this way. It's so fun.
And it's like 1 minute of riding time or 5 minutes of riding time. Same thing, like two completely different things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Riding time's gone.
All right. I like it, Ty Walz. Hey, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I had a pleasure doing it, and it was great. And your questions are awesome and thoughtful, so I appreciate it big time too.
All right, guys. Thank you again. Athletor Podcast. I appreciate you, Ty Walz. Wait. Don't go anywhere. Before you hit that next button, if you enjoyed listening to this episode, do us a huge favor. Click that subscribe button. And if you're so inclined, leave a review and share it.